until satisfaction lasts. All right. To make partnership, you need two persons at least, right? Sometimes it is ménage à trois, but normally it was two persons, right? Now to break relationship, one is completely enough. That is the inner tension. That's the inner tension of contemporary partnerships. That's why people are so careful to stamp it. That's forever, you know. To go to church or to synagogue or to mayor or to magistrate, you know, and swear loyalty from now on, forever. We prefer today just experimenting. Let's live together and we see what comes out of it. Now, what is wrong necessarily with that is simply that it changes your point of reference, your frame of reference. If you know that you will be meeting tomorrow again, and next week, and next month, and next year, and after 5 years, and so on, then your willingness, it's difficult to imagine that such willingness may emerge in these experimental relationships. But under that conditions of long-term thinking, you will be willing to negotiate a modus vivendi, to work. You won't treat love as a found object. You just bump it somewhere on the street, and once it looks, it's an attraction, you can dispose it because there are many objects waiting to be found. But you see, love is something which needs to be reproduced almost from scratch, day by day. It's a constant effort, constant effort. Therefore, if you negotiate modus vivendi, then you probably find even major disagreements, because two human individuals together, it is a recipe for very many conflicts, repeatable conflict, and it won't undermine the fact that however tragic the disagreements may be, still living with these disagreements is a better choice than losing each other company. But if it is the question of experimental living, let's move together under one roof and we'll see how it works, then every minor quarrel will arise to sky-high scale. And of course it won't be worth wasting more time, as again, sorry, English saying, throwing good money after bad. And the last point here, which I wanted to raise, the other collateral damage, is what is called popularly today sustainability of the planet. Sustainability of the planet. Here probably I will pronounce the most pessimistic sentence in my lecture, and most pessimistic simply because it is irrevocable. It is the naked, brutal truth that in order to raise everybody in humanity to the level of consumption which we here in Europe or in North America enjoy, we would need, ladies and gentlemen, not one planet Earth, but 5 planet Earth. 2.5 billion of people who currently live for less than $2 a day, if they ever lifted themselves to this standard of living, then the planet simply would not be able to survive. Therefore, ladies and gentlemen, we are confronting probably the biggest challenge in history. We are confronting, nearing of the limits of endurability of our planet from the point of view of its resources, of conditions in which it supplies for the living organisms, and so on. Nevertheless, we behave daily as if that was not the case. We, of course, on ceremonial occasions, on what I call the carnivals of consciousness or carnivals of conscience, time and again we repeat, we have to protect the planet, and we have to fight warming, we have to economize resources, but mostly all the participants of such anti-climatic change campaigns come to the meetings in their own private cars, and in the result, add to the problem rather than diminishing it. But the important point is not there. The important point is that the whole way in which we perceive the situation in the world daily, not on ceremonious occasion, but daily in practice, goes against the grain here. It is contrary to the purpose of saving the planet. Saving the planet would require nothing less than reduction of our consumption. Not further increase, not Americans reacting to 11 September, going massively to the shop and spending more money, not going out of depression by increasing the consumer activity, going even deeper into debt, using credit cards and spending unearned money, but on the contrary, limiting. But how do we measure, ladies and gentlemen, how do we measure the good or bad economic situation in a country? By statistics of GNP. That is the major index which we all use. Everybody, journalists, politicians, and we also who read newspapers and listen to politicians use. GNP, what is GNP? GNP is statistics of the amount of money we change hands. In other words, it is statistics of how much people spend on consumption. That's what it amounts to. With some curious results, for example, but if you fall under a car and then you require very expensive medical treatment, GNP goes up. This measurement of human happiness, national happiness goes up. But nevertheless, that is the major orientation point. We expect expressions of despair coming from on high whenever there is so-called zero growth. Not to mention negative growth, which is catastrophe, with catastrophe like tsunami. What we are going to do, how the whole order is trembling, it's an earthquake, we are falling apart. The Armageddon is approaching. The prophecy of apocalypse finally will be implemented. Now that is, ladies and gentlemen, an issue which you have to be confronted with all seriousness. And it is not a fanciful problem, not fanciful. I know that it is tremendously difficult today in the year 2010 to stretch our imagination and just conceive of a world which could be set in operation and give us a lot of pleasures without necessarily passing through shocks. Until the second half of the 19th century, all economists, the most famous among them, James Mill, Ricardo, John Stuart Mill later, and so on, were convinced that there is a subtotal of human needs. You can actually quantify them, you can actually measure them. And once all these human needs are satisfied, there is enough industrial production to supply the amount of goods which is necessary to satisfy them. Then that will be the end of economic growth, of all this tremendous effort building new factories, this chore which everybody is subjected to in order to bring production to the level of human needs. Economic growth from that point of view was a temporary irritant until needs are satisfied. What's happened since then, as you know, probably very well, so I only remind you very, very briefly. By the end of the 19th century, different terms started, different directions started. Why? What needs? Needs almost disappeared from the language of economy, and instead what appeared was desire, wish to buy, intention of the buyer, desire. Unlike needs, desire by definition are flexible. If your needs are satisfied, they are satisfied, full stop. But if your desire is satisfied, is it at all possible? What does desire desire? What does desire desire? Desire desires desire. Which means that at least this situation is very well measured by GNP as the index of prosperity, because it shows that desire is still very much alive, that it is growing, that people need more today than yesterday, and probably the day after tomorrow will need more than tomorrow. Just on the margin, earlier I mentioned that even desire is already a somewhat old-fashioned concept in marketing philosophy, because desire is something you have to develop, you have to cultivate, you have to grow. It takes time to develop your desire into something which didn't exist yesterday. And what is even worse, desire is always aimed at something, desire of something. It is specific, it can't be easily generalized. You can't switch desire at ease from one object which you don't possess on another. So slowly but relentlessly it is replaced at the moment by the category of want. Buying on want, on wish, on impulse. And please go around. I'm quite sure that in Vilnius you have shopping malls like in every other civilized place. So just look how they are structured. They are structured with the idea that whoever goes there in order to buy a shirt, because the old one needs repair, is bound to leave the shopping mall with the whole outfit. So buy things which were not on his or her mind when they entered there.